We haven't talked about your new BFF, Caleb Williams, lately. He's coming off a much improved season under Ben
I drove
Johnson.
by his crib the other day.
Oh, you were hanging out there in his man cave or what?
I was driving. I said, hey, look, that's where Caleb lives.
Yeah, okay. Nice little flex from the rich guy in the rich guy neighborhood.
I was driving by it.
Anyways, Caleb was asked about his next step that he wants to take. Here we go.
It was good for me to be able to see, to be able to feel, to be able to go out there and win games. But that wasn't my goal. I want to be, as we call it, a world champion, a Super Bowl champion. I want to be a best Bear quarterback, best quarterback. And so my goals, yes, that was a good stepping stone for me, but, that wasn't the last stepping stone.
Boy, I like him. Look at just the shoulders, the smile, the look, the maturity.
Great to live it. I've been working on my shoulders. I'm not, Caleb Williams' side, but I've been working on it.
Great to live in a city with a franchise quarterback.
Must be nice, huh? The Jets are still waiting on one.
You got two of them where you live.
Well, yes, obviously, Herbert and Stafford. But I don't know. Is it real? Are the Bears Super Bowl contenders in your eyes?
I have them making the NFC Championship against the Rams.
Wow. What happened to Sam Darnold and the Seahawks? They're falling off a cliff?
The Rams are going to beat them in the divisional round.
And then who's winning Rams Bears in the NFC?
I think the Detroit Lions are going to be better than people think. I think the Lions are going to go in as a wild card, knock some people off.
Interesting.
I think the Lions are coming back. They got the OC. That OC that left Arizona went to Detroit. They were a top 10 passing team and a top 10 third down team with Jacoby Brissett. That guy's good. Maybe not Ben Johnson, but he's good.
Let's not forget, Green Bay with Micah Parsons was one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the league. I mean, that division is stacked. Somebody's going to fall off. Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, let's move on to the...
No. We are not just moving on here. I genuinely think he's about to say the New York Jets. Absolutely not. It's the Chicago Bears. So, Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears making it to the NFC Championship game. Look, let's be honest with ourselves, they should have been in that game last year. They had that matchup secured. And after that? Who really knows? Seriously, think about it. Who knows? Football, man. It's a game of inches. Literally, inches. It's kind of funny, actually. This clip really wasn't saying much of anything. I honestly haven't stumbled upon a segment like this in quite some time where I just thought, hold on. What was even the point of that? Because it essentially boiled down to, Caleb Williams' last season was just a stepping stone toward bigger objectives. Okay, yeah. For sure. Absolutely. That's exactly it. I certainly hope so, right? I mean, your goal is obviously to become the best quarterback, part of the best team, win Super Bowls, all of that. That's pretty standard stuff. Now, J-Mac apparently doesn't have as much faith in Caleb and the Bears as Colin does. Colin is already picking wildcard teams and squads for the NFC title game, and it's like, whoa there. We haven't even reached the draft yet. It's not even June. You know? It's like, wait just a second. And this right here, this is the benefit of being the Bears, isn't it? This is what you get when you finally have a franchise quarterback and you brought in Ben Johnson, etc. People just look for excuses to talk about your team. They actively search for reasons. You're not doing this with the Arizona Cardinals, for instance. Right? You're not doing this with the Carolina Panthers. It's just not happening. I saw something right before we started recording this. Literally, truly, about 10 seconds before we went live, I was on my phone, scrolled to ESPN, and saw the headline of an article. Didn't even click on it. It said something like, Shedeur Sanders touts new energy under new head coach, Munkin. And my reaction was just, I'm not even going to open that link, because honestly, I don't care. Maybe if a video happened to pop up, I'd think, alright, maybe, but even then, probably not. At the very most, I'd let that video play in the background while I'm doing other stuff, right? If they're just running routine news and J-Mac says, oh, Sanders says the vibe is great under the new coach, I'd have it on in the background while I'm looking up notes and trying to figure out what video to make next. Nothing more than that. But with the Bears? I'm setting up a clip. I see the Bears logo, I see Caleb and Ben Johnson, I see the graphic at the bottom, and I go, okay, let's talk about this. Even when there's essentially nothing to discuss. Because there isn't, right? What am I going to do here? Say, oh, Caleb Williams says he wants to be the best. I love that. What a great mindset, a fantastic attitude. And I'm like, yeah, I expect him to have that. I expect him to be exactly that. And that's great because before Caleb and Ben Johnson, the Bears were obviously a very popular team in a massive city. But there was only so much you could say about them. The stakes never really mattered. And whenever you did talk about them, it was usually about what was going wrong. Right? I mean, even during Caleb's rookie year, I mentioned this a lot, the Bears and Caleb got more attention for what was failing, why they weren't winning, and how things were clearly falling apart than other teams that were actually winning and succeeding. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders had tons of success. Both rookie quarterbacks. They were winning. And yet there was way more buzz about the losses. Jaden Daniels and Washington win a big game, fine. The Chicago Bears lose, and we're opening entire shows with the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams losing. That, right there, is the power of popularity. That is the power of having a team that people genuinely want to discuss. And so, a little segment like this is a strong reminder, yeah, let's talk about the Bears. Let's talk about what they've got going on. It's just a lot better when it actually feels like there's real momentum. Yeah. I continue to be fascinated by what the Bears will look like in year 2 with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, and how big a step forward they can take. I remember doing a clip last week, I think it was with Nick and Greg. On First Things First, and they were saying that Caleb has to be the league MVP for the Bears to be a top team. And I don't see it that way at all. He just has to be, honestly, about 5% better than he was last season, and they're a top Super Bowl contender, clearly capable of reaching the NFC Championship game, because they were clearly capable of reaching it last year. Right? That's obvious. So, obviously I see it very differently, but to me, it's simply that. I really feel like the sky is the limit for the Bears and Caleb Williams. But what makes it extra interesting is that in past years, when we've seen teams truly explode, really take over their division, that division has always been an advantage for the other teams. Whether it's the Bills, whether it's the Eagles, whether it's the Chiefs. And that's definitely not where the Bears currently stand with the NFC North. They don't have that luxury. And that's why we even saw, 2 years ago, with the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions, winner gets the number 1 seed, loser gets the number 5 seed. Right? That is such a massive disadvantage. That is enormous. I mean, think about it, a first-round bye and the number 1 seed, or you lose and you're the number 5 seed. And that was the Vikings and the Lions. That is not what the Chiefs have been facing. That's not what the Bills have been facing. Or the Eagles. Or the 49ers. So that is the single biggest, and by obstacle, I don't mean it's directly in their way, like you have to get through the Lions to win. That's not what I mean. I just mean it's part of the process for the Bears that maybe wasn't there in the past. Now, listen, that's no longer the case for the Chiefs, because you have the Broncos, you have the Chargers, right? And the 49ers have the Rams and the Seahawks, and they all have each other, because they're all quite competitive these days. So it's no longer just the 49ers division. So, a huge part of how great the Bears can truly be is a combination of what they do internally. Plus, do the Lions right the ship? Do the Packers right the ship with Mike there? Are they actually a legitimate top 4 team like J-Mac says? Do the Minnesota Vikings figure out their quarterback situation? All of those things will have a bigger impact on the Bears' ability to truly become a dominant team, a true bona fide Super Bowl contender reaching the NFC Championship game, than people or fans ever like to admit. That is the one thing I've learned very quickly making videos and reading comments. Everyone always believes they own their division. Packers own the division, Lions own it, Bears own it, Eagles own it, Cowboys own it. Every fan base is always like, no, we own this division. We're clearly the best. Everyone believes they're going to win it. If I see a fan of a specific team say, I don't think we'll win the division, but I think we'll get a wild card spot, I'm like, whoa, who are you? I want to have a conversation with you right now, because I respect that. I appreciate that. Interesting. I remember when the Commanders finally started building momentum, their fans were all saying, "Oh, the Commanders are going to win the division." I said, "That's not happening." They said, "No, no, no." I said, "Check my history talking about the Commanders, I'm not hating on them, but the Eagles are the better team." And when I laid out the whole playoff structure, I said, "Commanders, you want to face the Eagles last. It's actually better to be the 5 seed than the 6 seed, because that means you don't see the Eagles until the NFC Championship." They said, "No, it doesn't matter." Blah, blah, blah. Then they faced the Eagles and got destroyed. And it was like, these are the things still on the table, no matter how confident you are or how many steps forward you take. And I think the Bears have really experienced that firsthand, because they lost to the Vikings, right? They lost to the Packers. They lost to the Lions. I think, did they lose to the Lions twice? Didn't they go 1-2 against the Lions? I believe so. So that's always on the table. No matter how great you are, if your division is competitive, if the other team is at least competitive, it still comes down to football. Even if you're the 2018 Chiefs, and I've said that's where I feel the Bears could get to, with an upgraded version of Caleb Williams, yeah, sure. But if the Lions can reconnect with who they were in 2-3-24, then alright. Yeah. You could be the 2018 Chiefs, but you still have to get through the Patriots, right? There are still other teams you have to find a way past. And then it becomes a coin flip. And again, the Bears had the ultimate coin flip moment multiple times against the Los Angeles Rams. I think that game could have been won or lost about 8 different times over the course of it. And obviously, it didn't work out for them. So, it really does come down to how much the Bears can step forward, and what the division alone looks like, let alone the entire NFL, right? The league as a whole. But all in all, I still think it's a really, really, really exciting spot for the Bears to be in right now. And finally, even having little clips like this, little moments where you're just trying to find a reason to talk about the Bears, and it's positive, rather than what else is going wrong. I just made a clip for the Minnesota Vikings, and it was all about Justin Jefferson talking about Kyler Murray or J.J. McCarthy. That's a bad place to be in. Your number 1 wide receiver, your elite wide receiver, is talking about 2 different quarterbacks on your roster right now. That's a mess. That's a messy situation. It is not a mess with Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Even Colin talked about it. Oh, they just hired the new coordinator from the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, they brought in a new person to the building to figure out that offense. Problems to solve. Not He problem with the Chicago Bears. Not the problem with the Chicago Bears. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams? How do you feel about the conversation so far this offseason? How do you feel about Caleb saying it's a stepping stone to bigger goals? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.